Hi, I'm Denise Burke, and today I'll be talking about cancer. I want to talk about cancer, and cancer, by the way, can be, any other. There's a few diagnoses with it when we hear it. It elicits both an emotional, physical reaction from us, and cancer is one of those diagnoses, right? When we hear the word cancer, I know before I was diagnosed with cancer, my view of cancer was pretty grim. That it was a death sentence, even though I knew that some people did beat it. It was kind of like the worst club that you don't ever want to be in the club of cancer, right? And so before I got cancer, before I was diagnosed with cancer, my view of it was very, like most people, it really was like, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to be there. And in addition, there's a lot of secrecy around cancer. And a lot of people that I've known that have had cancer, have died of cancer, or have lived with cancer and beat it, didn't talk a whole lot about it. And so it was also one of those things that it was like, how do you ask questions? What do they go through? You just heard of the dreaded chemo. And so I know my perspective was very tainted by society, media, and then the few people that I knew that had it that mostly went into hiding or, secrecy with it. And so I just, again, it was shrouded in this fear because, well, you don't want to go there. You'll just kind of disappear in this black hole. Or what do they go through? Because I don't know. Nobody really talks a whole lot about it. You see people with no hair. You hear little stories here and there. And again, mostly the worst case, you hear someone got cancer and then, a year later they're gone or something. So those are the stories we remember. And I've lost some very special people myself to cancer. One of them being my grandfather, my Grandpa Bunny. And again, I just watched this really, life of him, just such life in him, lose energy. We didn't talk a whole lot about it. I was a teenager at the time, but it was scary to me. I watched him kind of dwindle away until kind of in secrecy he died. And I never really understood what he went through. So here I am now, living with cancer and facing kind of some of my biggest fears, right? I mean, getting cancer is probably one of most people's biggest fears. And I've had to deal with it. And I have found that the world of cancer is not nearly as scary as the image and or the lack of discussion. So again, we of course fear the worst. What I found in the cancer world is, number one, the cancer diagnosis does not mean a death sentence. Number two, that cancer brings with it, yes, some really difficult hills to climb. It's a difficult journey, but it often brings a sense of community. For many that I have met, they have found support in ways once they had cancer that they'd never had in their lives. It brings an acute awareness to our physical bodies and how important our bodies really are, and having to really take care of them, and almost to the point where, I can't even believe how many doctor appointments I've had, but my body is super important. There's lots of lessons, and most people would say, well, I don't want those lessons. Well, neither did I, but I can either embrace what I can learn from it, or just stay stuck crying over it, and it wouldn't change a thing. So, and believe me, I've shed my tears, absolutely. But I just want to address the propaganda about cancer so that we can so we can have a real dialogue about what cancer means, how many shadings of cancer there are. Many people I've met have beat cancer, or the treatments they have now are working and keeping the tumor stable, even if it's metastasized. So many wonderful stories of people living, thriving, and living far beyond what doctors thought they would. I have people in my cancer support group. Wow, they were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer years ago, some 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And they're living, and they've got their struggles at times, but they're living and they're thriving. They're there for their families. And others that they had cancer, it was like a year of their lives, and 10 years later, they've moved on. And so I hope that with sharing my story and part of my journey that people can understand kind of what you go through with cancer, but that many days are just normal days for me. The last year and a half I've been in the hospital more and seen more doctors than I have in my entire lifetime. I've met some amazing people though along the way. I found a ton of support through the community, through some family, and through healthcare professionals. I've also had to get stronger. I mean, cancer pushed me to get a lot stronger and more proactive about asking questions, pushing doctors, really helping navigate my treatment, and not just sit back and assume they all know what they're doing. Some do, but some don't. And I've had to ask a lot of questions and get second opinions and third opinions, and it's just made me much more savvy and aware. Cancer is not the end all. And I can say that I honestly have grown so much in the last year and a half. Dare I say, in the 53 years I've been here on Earth, it might have been the most growth in a year and a half that I've ever experienced. And so I embrace those lessons. I embrace the person I've become. And I'm fighting with every breath I have to live as long as I can and to help others along the way. And so if you have been diagnosed with cancer, please put it in perspective and understand we are surrounded, once you've been diagnosed with cancer, with this veil of fear, everyone's fears. And it just takes some energy to peel that back and to separate from it and not let it overwhelm you or consume you, and just put it in perspective and talk to people who've lived and beat cancer. Get support from cancer support groups and online groups. And you're going to have to weigh through that as well, because there will people be in there that are overwhelmed and scared too. And then there's some that will share their stories that they, were given in 3 months to live, and they're still here 10 years later. And you just have to really, sort it all out and look at all the stories. Yes, there are people that lose their lives every day to cancer. Yes, cancer is one of the biggest killers of people. Yeah, that's true. But there's also so many people that have been diagnosed that cancer didn't get them. And there's always people who defy the odds. There's always people who defy the odds. And whatever amount of time we have here anyway, we have work to do. We still have living to do. And for however long that is. And if the body is ready to go, I'm trying to get to a point where I'm kind of understanding a fate to things, just because as well as our attitude, of course, our positive attitude helps tremendously. But, there are people that get in their car thinking life is one way, and then they never make it home. And other tragedies that happen, or a heart attack. And those things do happen. It's just all of these things are to remind us to really just, what are we waiting for to live our lives? What's it going to take? Let's live. I take those risks, and who cares what people think of us? And laugh out loud. Embarrassingly, I embarrass my daughter all the time. I laugh so loud, the loudest one in the movie theater. As you're drinking your soda, so what if you snort it and it comes out your nose? It's about those moments of just laughter and enjoying life. Because I know there were times when I was in the hospital under chemo and I couldn't taste anything. There's those days I was like, well, I can't wait till these days get over. And when they were over and I could taste again, oh my God, food never tasted so good. I almost didn't even realize how good food can taste, or smells, or the view of the ocean, or just hearing the rain outside. So enjoy life, enjoy every day, and don't take anything for granted. It's the biggest mistake to take things for granted. and stay in the positive. And yeah, get your emotions out. I've been talking about emotions and being real with yourself, and get anger out, frustration, and be honest with yourself. But then, once you do that, that gives you space to feel joy, because you're not carrying all that stuff that you've been pushing down. You can just enjoy life. And honestly, in whatever capacity you can, just look at what you can do and enjoy and be. Life's pretty amazing. It really is. So that's my message for today. Be aware of the messages we have about any diagnosis, but especially cancer. I'm here to tell you that we're so much more than any diagnosis. We're humans, we're breathing, we're loving, we're living, and learning every day. Have a great day, everyone.